Well, hello everyone. The time has officially come and the postgrad work permit extension has now been released, and there is a ton to digest. More, in fact, than I can do on my own. So I have brought in Cedric here to join me, and wow, this is pretty crazy. I'm surprised why it took so long for this to happen, Cedric, but it's finally here, and it looks like the government is definitely going out of their way to make sure even those people that have fallen out of status, like really fallen out of status, to save them as well. So this is just a quick little announcement. I think as everybody knows here, I just pulled up the little Twitter feed here, and Minister Fraser on his little channel tweeted this out about an hour ago. And obviously we have a life here in the firm, and because of that, it can often take just a little bit longer for us to get things out. But what the purpose of this is just to go through and talk about at a high level what this announcement entails, but there's a lot that Cedric and I have to digest. And then at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time, you can watch that. You can find this on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see that we also have a recording or a scheduled live that we're going to do, where we're going to dive in much deeper and actually talk about and answer a lot more questions about what we have just seen here. And so if you go to our channel right here, you'll see that this is our live right now. And then very shortly, you will see there's going to be another live that's far more detailed than what we can cover right here. That will be launched at 5:30 Mountain Time. So let's dive in and let's take a look at these new measures. So what do you think about this, Cedric? We've had just a few minutes to talk about it. What do you think?
It's fantastic that we're able to have people who are in Canada who've been affected by COVID extend their work permits, or in some cases get a new work permit. And listen, there's different scenarios we're going to talk about. We're also going to have interim authorization in some cases to continue working while IRCC is processing your application. But we'll talk about this in a few moments. But this is for people who currently have a status inside Canada or could restore their status inside Canada. It's not to re-enter Canada, right? But
Yeah.
it's fantastic news for those with an expiring postgrad work permit to continue working for the next 18 months and get your express entry scores.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
exactly. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through this and just literally read it with you guys and try to digest and get the information out. But Uzair here posts a question right away. He says, is this for workers on maintained status? Yeah. As long as you fit within the parameters that they've got here, the September to December range, September 20th to December 31st, then you've got a shot. But let's dive in here and let's digest this slow and steady. And then, like I said, it looks like this is also going to be going through the regular GC key. Some people are going to have it's going to be done automatically. There's not going to be anything that they need to do, as long as their email addresses are up to date and they can receive notifications. Then if they're in this range and their passport is going to be continue to be valid for the full length of the postgrad work permit, which is, I think, essentially till about April of 2024. Then there's not a lot that you need to do. And we'll look at this and we'll go through it right now. If you have questions, this is definitely going to be interactive. There's going to be Q&As. And at the end, as we kind of go through this news bulletin, this announcement, I also want to let everybody know that tomorrow at 5:30, I am going to be, that's that $25 little fee that I'm charging. I'm going to be recording the course for people so that they don't screw this up. And there's a number that are not going to have to do anything, but there's a number that are going to need to do something. And so for those people that have to apply, you do not want to screw this up. So I'm going to actually provide a live session that's to those who have subscribed for the view only, and then there will be the course available as well. So one thing I want to remind everybody, do not rush out and just file this as quickly as possible. Don't do it. If you need to take the time to make sure that you're filing it properly, and at least hold on until this evening, where we can talk about this just a little bit in a little bit more detail, and we can answer questions before you go ahead and jump in, because there are some things that you need to be aware of for sure. Okay, let's take a look at what we've got here, Cedric. Let's work right from the top. So as we talked about before, it's not only going to be for those with expired or expiring postgrad work permits, but it also, there is a little bit of an announcement, which I found was quite interesting, for the TR to PR pathway people. And some people have the open work permits for the TR to PR pathway, those bridging like open work permits. Some of them are expiring at the end of this year. And some of those individuals will also be able to benefit from some administratively extended work permits that will come. So number one, make sure you have access to your email address. And this is one of the challenges that you get when someone else is controlling your application, right? And we don't know how this is going to play out if you've used a representative to assist you in the firm. We just don't do that anymore, do we, Cedric? People control their own applications. So the key will be that your email is accurate and that you are receiving those correspondence, and that your representative, your consultant, your lawyer, whoever it is that's managing your GC Key account and who've helped you to file your postgrad work permit, that they are paying attention to things and are responding. Now, remember, I will, you know what, Cedric, I can't help myself here. Okay, right here, how to fire. Sometimes you guys have your profile with someone you just don't trust. Well, I do have a video here that's how to fire your consultant or lawyer, I guess, as the case may be, and take back your express entry profile. That's always available for people if they want to get control of their GC key and open up their own new GC key and start fresh. But understand that these initial guidelines are really linked to the email address that was originally associated with your postgrad work permit application. And that's the one tricky aspect that you guys have to pay attention to. We'll talk about that more as we go forward. Okay, and I see a lot of people are starting to post questions, so hold off. Let's go through this together. And then after we've gone through this, then we'll open it up to questions. All right. Okay, so let's keep zipping. And they've got their backgrounder. Congratulations. We don't care about that. This is obviously in furtherance of what the minister had announced earlier this year. Why it's taken till August, I don't know. So the key here is that these open work permits are for individuals with expired or expiring post-graduation work permits. One of the things that we don't see here is whether or not, at least I haven't found it with the program delivery instructions or whatever the guidance the government has. One thing we have not seen, Cedric, is whether or not people who already benefited from the previous 18-month postgrad, if they're included in this mix. I haven't seen it yet. We'll try to get that answer as we go forward. But generally speaking, you will have had a postgrad work permit that expired as far back as September 20th and is also valid to December 31st, 2022, or expiring before that time period. If your postgrad work permit expires in 2023, you're not eligible for this program. So that's the first starting point. Cedric's going to be hovering in the background as I go through this because he's also right live reading everything he can on all of the background information. And then when the tough questions come, I'll know he's prepared to answer anything. So this will be awesome. But we're doing this live. I literally got off a meeting just minutes before we went live here. So I'm learning this exactly with you guys. Okay, who this applies to. And this is where some of you are going to say, whew, I don't have to do anything. This is going to be a piece of cake. And others, it's going to be, oh my goodness. Okay, how does this work? Do I qualify? What do I need to do? So first one, category one, your postgrad expires from October 2nd, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. So this is a very, very narrow time frame. So you're still working on your postgrad. Okay, you're not in maintain status. You're not out of status. Your postgrad is still valid, but it expires October 2nd to December 31st. Your address is up to date. As much as anything, you guys, that's your email address. That is how they're going to be communicating with you. But ultimately, you know, what does address mean? Obviously, you want to make sure that your regular address is updated as well. And why? Because that's where they're going to be sending your postgrad work permit. And if you're no longer living at the address that you have put into your profile, or you know your GC Key account that's associated with your postgrad, if you're no longer there and you don't say anything to them, then ultimately your postgrad's going to get sent there. So you better figure it out if someone else is living in your apartment that you moved out of. So that's a key factor here. So if your address is up to date and your passport is valid through April 2024. Why? Because the previous 18-month program was only issued one time. They didn't do it twice. And if your passport was expiring in 3 months, then your 18-month postgrad was basically a 3-month postgrad extension. But now they're trying to curtail that and do it in such a fashion that they truly are giving people time to get the full benefit of the 18 months. So if you fit within these parameters, postgrad expiring from October the 2nd to December 31st, and your address is up to date and your passport is valid. And I want to point out, Cedric, as we go back here, I'm going to close out this little search feature. Okay, delete this. And then I want to go back to the main videos. And I want to point out to everybody this video right here that we did. Let me see if I can even find it. We've pumped out so many new ones here. Let's see here if we've got all the videos. I did a video right here 2 weeks ago on 18-month extensions and how to avoid mistakes. And one of the things that I told people repeatedly is that they needed to extend their passports and make sure that they were valid for the whole period. That was one of the top tips that I provided. And absolutely, that has come to fruition now. And so if your passport is expiring before April 2024, then you're not going to be able to benefit from this measure right here, which means you don't need to do anything. When you will receive an email from IRCC, and I think it was August the 8th, I think, or something, or in literally a week from now, they'll start sending out these emails. And you'll receive an email from IRCC to confirm your mailing address. So they want to confirm that, yes, this is your proper mailing address. You can see here, don't respond, which is they're telling you not to respond because it's an automated email. All right. So just like you receive those confirmations when you sent your numerous web form inquiries, that's what's happening here. So an updated work permit will be sent to your mailing address by mid-October. So you're still twiddling your thumbs, but the goal is for them to get this out as soon as possible. And there's going to be a lot of you. So there's number one. Okay. Number two. Yes.
Sorry,
Igor.
Mark. I just want to point out.
Go ahead, Cedric. I've been talking 100 miles a minute here.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, I've been promising people for the last few weeks that as soon as it's announced, we're going to do a live right away. So here we are delivering on this promise. I just want to go back to the first point. And when we talk about passport valid through April 2024, we mean passport valid and IRCC is aware that your passport is valid, right? Some people might have obtained a new passport and not updated their profiles. So not only do you need the new passport, but this has to be been previously updated, right? So inside of your MyGC account, the new passport information is posted, your address is complete, and it's good past April 2024, right? So this is not the time. So if that's the case and you meet that definition, fantastic. But if it's not the case, and this is the second point where you need to update your address or update your passport information with IRCC, which some of you might have got a new passport, but not necessarily updated with IRCC. So let's take a look at this, Mark, the number two.
All right. So the second one, the situation is your post-grad work permit, once again, expires October 2nd to December 31st, but you need to update your address or your passport validity. So in this case, if you're not in that sweet spot where it's valid beyond April 2024, then what it says here, when you receive the email to confirm your address, follow the instructions in the email to let us know that your mailing address needs to be updated. Okay. If your passport validity doesn't allow us to extend for the full 18 months, you will not receive this initial email, but you will receive a separate email in September. So you can see there's the key here, Cedric, is that you watch your email like a hawk and you wait for any notifications and you basically follow the instructions. And personally, I can't see any world where at some point IRCC is not going to screw this up and send the improper emails to improper people. And obviously that's why we're here, to help people sort through this when those things happen. My goodness, we've seen so much confusion with these ADRs that are coming for clients and the instruction letters that are full of mistakes and errors and telling people to upload documents to their portals and there's no place to upload them and no responses to the web form. So a series of emails that are strategically targeting candidates, the likelihood of them getting this perfect is very, very remote. And so we'll see how this plays out. But personally, I think there are going to be glitches with this, but generally you're going to watch for the email. So if your passport's expiring, before April of 2024, and or your address is not the one that was originally included with your post-grad work permit, and remember, you have obligations to keep them updated of your address, then you will be watching for a separate email that was not going to come for this whole month. You got to sit twiddling your thumbs until September. But the original email is going to start coming out right away, and we'll see that. Okay, if you need to update your mailing address or your passport, those instructions will come, and then they will basically tell you. And I wonder if they even figured this out yet. Cedric, this sounds like the government buying time to me, that they don't fully understand exactly how they're going to work this out. But there was so much pressure for them to announce. And I know as I get ready to drop off the CBA, my first series of emails was going to be raging at the minister, but I'm happy that he came through. So basically those instructions we'll have to watch and how to do it through the online account. I actually assumed, Cedric, that they were going to create a new one. So why in the world did it take them so long to put this together when people are just going through their MyCIC accounts? And at least from my perspective, it sure looks like that's where it's going. But this evening, we'll dive more into that once we've confirmed all of those things. And remember, if you go back to the YouTube channel, you will see here when you go to the main channel that there will be another launched, scheduled live for tonight at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Why 5:30? Because I have an express entry masterclass going from 4 to 5. And we do have a little bit of client work. But if you guys can hang on this evening, we'll have a lot more details and that we're going to be sharing with everyone. So don't race off and file this. This is not a race to file. This is not a TR to PR pathway situation. And those who are submitting their applications, I know that people want to get them in as quickly as possible. But the reality is you'll see that there are provisions that will allow you to work even before you get the work permit. So the key is to get it right the first time, not screw it up when you're submitting it if you need to. And so give yourself time. And join us tonight at 5:30 Mountain Time. Okay, let's keep zipping through here. So you'll get a 2-week window to do so. Wow, that's not a lot of time. So if your passport's isn't valid or your address isn't correct, then you'll basically have about 2 weeks to update your address or your passport information. And if you update this information, you will then receive an updated work permit in the mail by mid-November. So once again, you can benefit from not having to even file the application once again. So if you, to ensure you'll be able to benefit, check your passport validity and apply to extend it. Oh my goodness, Cedric. How many countries are going to turn around a passport renewal in less than 2 weeks? Or even now, a month? Maybe some might. I don't know. But
So this is really to you already have your valid passport that expires after April 2024, right? So in this case, we already have the passport, but you haven't updated IRCC. The third case is going to be you don't have the passport. You can't update your passport, right? So I agree with you. It's not super well written. 2-week window. I mean, it's not going to happen, right? And this is interesting, Mark, because I have a client who's in exactly this third scenario. We might be jumping the gun a bit, but this is to do with people if you don't have a passport, right? If you don't have a passport, it's expiring, and you're at the embassy, the consulate is saying, okay, we're going to get you a passport in 3 months. Yeah. This is highly problematic, and what we see here is that you are able to get the extension, but it looks like from number 3, you could receive a work permit extension to your passport expiration date, or you could wait to apply until your renewed passport. So this is really interesting.
All right, so let's go over this again. So option number 3, and remember, we're all dealing with, each of these first options are all dealing with post-grad work permits that will be expiring October 2nd to December 31st. My goodness, Cedric, probably 85 to 90% of the people, their post-grads are expiring way before that or back in September of last year. So hang in there, and yes. Okay, let's zip through here, and as we're doing this, Igor on the other side is sending me Teams messages, and he says, just a reminder to the subscribers to click the bell button and subscribe to notify me. So I'm going to show you guys one other thing here. I've got Igor sending me messages, and this is really a combined team effort that we're doing here. And so one of the things that you guys will see, oh, there we go. Look at this. Igor has already got it up and running. So this is the post-grad 18-month extension in detail. This one here, you can click on this button right here to get notified, and we're going to go live with that one in about 6 hours. So well done, Igor. Awesome. Okay, so jumping back, let's continue forward with our little discussion about these parameters. Remember, right now we're focusing on those whose postgrads are expiring October 2nd to December 31st. So this option 3 is, wait a minute, I don't have a prayer. Like, I won't be able to update my address. I don't know why you won't be able to do that, but maybe some people won't. Or passport validity, which basically means I'm not going to get it back, like Cedric's client. So then in that case, you will need to apply online to extend the work permit. And when we click on here and we open this link, Cedric, and I pull it up here, you can see that it then takes you to this little wizard to help you to choose the right location to apply. But you can see here, even those outside of Canada, which we'll get to, will have an opportunity to do it. But this ultimately directs people back to their MyCIC account. So we'll say it's expired already. Actually, let's go here and let's do a little test here, Cedric. Why not? We're live here. So will expire on or after October 2nd. That's the category we're dealing with right now. And if we click continue here, then it goes down to round 1, begins August the 2nd. It goes through all the details here. Round 2, and ultimately it's just reconfirming that, hey, you guys are, if you fit within the parameters, are likely not going to need to do anything. But if we go back here, we'll go in Canada, and then we'll say will expire before October the 2nd, and then we click continue. You can see then it starts to push you through the application process. Okay, there's the guide, which I also, in this evening, we'll go through this in detail, and I'll pull out some of the details that people need to pay attention to. But ultimately, it directs you down here, pay your fees, keep your receipt, create an online account, and start your application. All these things, create an account or sign in. When you click on this, look at where it takes you, Cedric. So I thought for sure that there was going to be some new portal, and that's why they were so delayed. But unless this view directs to some other internal side portal, I think they pretty much needed to link it because they have to tie everything together to the old post-grad work permit, which was submitted through here. So just a little bit of extra insight there. It looks to me like it's just through the MyCIC account. So once again, if you didn't file your own post-grad, well, then you're kind of tied to some extent to the representative that was assisting you previously. It appears like that. But once again, there is ways of firing your previous representative if that's the case. Okay, all right, let's keep zipping through here. So apply online. Your postgrad expires from October to December 31st, but IRCC didn't contact me. What if I didn't get the email, Cedric? So in this case, it says if you do not receive the email by mid-September, you're not eligible to have your work permit extended through this special process for another reason, such as information has been added to your file about your admissibility to Canada that will need further review. You may still apply online to extend your work permit. So this is another interesting situation. So once again, we're still within the October 2nd to December 31st postgrad work permit expiry range, but I don't know, like somehow they've gotten themselves into some trouble, and it's on their GCMS file, and they say you may still apply online, but you're not getting anything automatic, essentially is what they're saying here. So, okay, that's option 4. Now let's shift to the vast majority of other people, okay? So these first 4 are that narrow window of October 2nd to December 31st for your postgrad work permit to be expiring. These are the people that are like smooth sailing, that are like, life is good, no stress. But you poor suckers out there who've been sitting there wondering what your future holds, some who've had a work permit that has expired or will expire from September 20th all the way up to my birthday on October the 1st, this is for you. And what does it mean? You will need to apply online for a work permit. And this also comes right back down to the reality that you can't afford to get this wrong. I don't know if you have any thoughts at this stage, Cedric, with with where we're at for all those individuals who are in that sweet spot range of October 2nd to the December 31st, or I don't know if you have any thoughts. I've been talking 100 miles an hour here.
No, I think it's a great point, Mark. Everything we've talked about so far is really dealing with October 2nd to December 31st. And I can tell you that I have clients in both situations. Clients right now who have expired work permits and clients who are nervously waiting for this announcement. So I think it's difficult for everyone to have been waiting so long, right? It's a great policy. We're very happy. Obviously, waiting so long is such a challenge, but it's really interesting how in some situations you don't need to do anything, but for a lot of people, it's going to come down to your passport. And for a lot of people, you're going to have to reapply online for your work permit. And I was actually just over on the same page that you were at where it says where to apply. And there's actually an option that it talks about if your postgrad work permit expired and about your temporary residence status. So I'm sure we're going to get more about this. And you've been
Yep.
to, this is not a rush. This is not the first in the gate. They're not, there's no cap on the amount of people that they're going to be accepting. But what's important is having maintained a temporary residence status. We've talked about this in Q&As, my own Q&As. I talked about this with Alicia, with yourself, how you need to have a status inside Canada, right, to be inside Canada. So for a lot of people, it's going to be a visitor record, but for some people, it's going to be the TR to PR open work permit that they got. So listen, great program, but for a lot of people, you're going to have to reapply, and we're gonna look at this whole afternoon. We're going to be looking into this in more detail and doing the live Q&A, the courses, and meeting with clients. So very exciting, very, very exciting.
All right. Now the moment of truth. All of the rest of you, you will need to apply online for a work permit. So applications open on August the 2nd, 2022. So today, right now. But I want to reiterate once again, hang on. Don't submit your application yet. Join us at 5:30 this evening, and we will go through and we'll provide some insight on some of the main areas where people are going to screw this up. And once you've clicked submit, understand that you guys are going to be in, rough situations if you've done something improperly. It doesn't say that we're going to just save whatever defective application that you file. So you've got to do this properly, or your representative has to do it properly. And if everybody's racing trying to get it filed because they figure that somehow they'll get their work permit faster, don't stress about that. We will talk about that in a second. So if you're in Canada, once again, this is the key, and your temporary status has also expired, you must apply to restore your status at the same time. And this is where it becomes a little bit more complicated. Many of you are not used to figuring out how to do this, restore and apply, because you've done things properly. You've always made sure that you've extended your study permits on time, your postgrad work permit on time, and you've never been in this situation. And so we're going to try to walk you through this, try to give you a little bit of assistance. But here's the kicker. So under these special measures, you are allowed to restore your status. Here's the beautiful part. And this is the only way they could have done it, Cedric, even if it expired more than 90 days ago. Even if it expired, well, that's the question. How long? So if your work permit expired September 20th, 2021, and you've done nothing to fix your status, my goodness, I don't know how you're surviving without having worked without authorization, but that's a whole different discussion. But technically, 90 days was the only time period that you had to restore. But they've opened it up because they had no choice. If you're extending this eligibility back to people with postgrads expiring September 20th, well, then, you have to do something. And some people did not follow our blogs that we wrote on this, did not listen to the blog that Alicia had posted. And I'm just going to go back to our website quick here. Resources, blogs. You guys have to go check this out. There's some amazing new blog posts that we've written on a number of topics here. But I want to go back here to it would have been September. We were doing this a long time. This was back to December the 15th, 2021. Alicia wrote this comprehensive blog, which basically told you guys not to fall out of status. So, well, hopefully you guys didn't, but there's still a catch-all to save yourself. So even if it expired more than 90 days, you can still apply, but you must restore at the same time. And there's a way of doing that. And one of the places that I'm going to go through in great detail, because we can't spend hours and hours trying to do this, is through, I'm going to flip over here to this page right here. I have my postgrad 18-month extension course. And if you click learn more and buy, you will see that there are two options available for you. So you can watch this. There are two options. Tomorrow, Wednesday, August the 3rd at 5:30 p.m., I will start recording the content material for the full course. If you are one of those individuals who's been without work, and are struggling and just don't have resources, for only $25, you will have access to the live stream where I'll be broadcasting, where I'm actually recording the videos that are going to go in here. And there isn't going to be an opportunity. You can watch the course. It's like you're attending a lecture, and you can take notes, and you have the ability to upgrade to the full version. But this one here is literally when I'm recording. I've never done this live before. I've always done it as a pure recording without an audience. But because I know you guys are so anxious, we're going to record those starting 5:30, and I'm going to go till, I don't know, maybe I won't sleep to get this through. But anyway, Cedric, so there's no access to the recordings after for $25. There's no access to the final version of the course, no access to the master classes that will be associated with the full course, and no ability to ask questions. But for freaking for $25 US, you can watch me record and still learn all of the tips and strategies as I build out this. And so it's in live, so you can do that. Those of you who want access to the full course, where you get access to the recordings on demand, the final version, sample documents, worksheets, templates, everything that we are going to include with it, and masterclass, the 2 days of 1 hour long masterclasses that we're going to do. And those masterclasses will be the following week. So we're going to run those. Basically, I'm going to be away next week. So the following week, that's when we're going to be running the master classes, and I'll keep everybody posted. And then you'll get access to the community group where you can ask questions and engage with the subscribers as well. So those options are available. So don't freak out, you guys. There are some very, very reasonable options to help you. And why do we do this? Because Cedric and myself and Alicia and Chanel cannot work with 3,000 people all at the same time. But this is the way that we do it. Okay. Now, here's a couple notes. You may not apply for this work permit at a port of entry. So if you think, hey, I'm just going to run down and I'm going to go to the border and I'm going to apply for this versus applying online, you, my friend, are going to get shot down. And being a former border officer, those suckers, if you've been out of status, one of those individuals who's post-grad expired in September and you chose not to transition to a visitor status, those border officers, they don't care. There's no mercy. They will probably issue one of these lovely deferral of examinations to give you time to pack your bags, and then you yourself will voluntarily withdraw your application and leave the country at the behest of the CBSA. So this ATL and deferral of examination is what they do when they realize that you, my friend, have been working without authorization to support yourself, or you've fallen out of status. They don't understand these programs, and you'll be packing your bags. So under no circumstance do you ever go down to the port of entry to try to apply for this. IRCC is going to show a whole heck of a lot of mercy to people, but CBSA will not. So don't fall into that trap. All work permit applications for this policy must be submitted online by December 31st, 2022. So if you dawdle, take your sweet time, and then think about filing January the 1st, 2023, you are going to be hooped. All right. Cedric, I'm going to let you talk about this one here. Ability to work in the interim. This is the celebration.
This really is, and I think this is fantastic. I don't think I've ever seen such a generous policy to do with this, right? So this is not contingent on having an application. This is not contingent on everything else from what we understand right now from this. So starting August 8th, so this is next week, right? Individuals, the postgraduate work permits that have expired or will be expiring. So in the past or in the present or going forward, September 20, 2021 to December 30th, will receive an email indicating they're allowed to work in the interim. This is massive, Mark. This is really big. So those of you who are at home right now and are not working because you don't have a valid work permit, on August 8th, fingers crossed that you're going to get this email that's going to clearly state you can work. This is not the substitute for applying. You still have to apply for your 18-month extension, but in the meanwhile, you can go back to work as early as August 8, 2022. This is really, really fantastic news.
Okay, Cedric, I have to ask the question. I have to ask this question. Why the freak did they not announce just that little piece back in like February of this year? Like, why in the world, if they were just going to provide this magical little announcement and all that was required was an email to be sent out, why in the world did they wait until August the 2nd for all of the people, the torment, the suffering, everything that they went through, wondering what the future was going to hold when they were just going to do this anyways? Come on, you worked within government. Like, what goes through their government minds?
I can't comment on that, but I
Oh
can't
man,
comment on that,
typical
Mark,
government speak. Okay.
But what I can tell you, Mark, is that we're all very frustrated with the long waiting times that were caused by delays, right? We're all frustrated by what's happened in the past. But as I've commented about it, we're very excited to have a very generous post-graduation work permit, and we can't dwell on the past. Let's focus on the future. Let's get your emails going. Let's get you back to work. We're over the hump, if you will. We talked about COVID waves and whatnot. I feel like we're really going back to normal processing times. We're really going back to normal programs. But this is a fantastic measure to allow you to continue working. So listen, Mark, I think you have valid frustration with what's been happening, because we see so many clients who come to us frustrated, angry, mad, having to leave Canada, having to delay family plans, to not have income but support yourself in a really expensive cities in Canada, right? So it's listen, what's happened with COVID, a lot of people are trying their hardest, but let's focus on the present, and that
Yep.
is correctly and properly preparing your postgraduate work permits, right? This is
All right.
super crucial
So they get this.
to get it
So they
right.
get this email, Cedric. They get this email. Then what do they need to do to actually convince an employer that, hey, I can work now, even though my postgrad's expired? What do they got to do?
Yeah, so employers have very strict requirements under the Immigration Refugee Protection Act, and employers do take it seriously. They don't want to be fined. They don't want to be on blacklists. They want to maintain their employer compliance, right? Large enterprises have hire tons of foreign nationals for different reasons. So you know what? They say here to attach this email to the postgraduate work permit to show an employer that you are authorized to work temporarily in Canada. In some situations, it might not be enough. Attach this announcement, speak with your HR, try to show them that you can work. But again, this is very unconventional. This is a public policy for COVID, right? It's a one-time measure. The application needs to be correctly prepared, right? They're not going to issue it again. You can't reapply if your passport expires in 6 months or a year. One-time shot for the application. But you do have this grace period with this email to allow you to work, and again, until December 31st, 2022 to apply. So super important to do this properly. And yeah, like you mentioned, Mark, convincing your employers that you're legally allowed to work, right? That's going to be interesting. We'll see
Yeah.
how employers react to this.
Well, you saw what they did with the whole implied status thing. They had to change the definition to maintained status to somehow, because I guess employers didn't understand implied status, which that's been in existence since 2020, 2002 when IRPA was created. But anyways, and then they attached these expiry dates that were completely incorrect in law, for people, just so that employers could understand, oh, okay, they're valid until this date, which is like 90 days, into the future. Well, anyways, like Cedric said here, you're going to include all of this. And if you've still got an employer who doesn't understand, then have them connect with us, and we will provide them with a legal opinion that they can rely upon, that yes, you can go back to work. And so it's interesting to note too, that this interim work period will be in effect until only May 31st, 2023. So the goal, at least what they feel, is that everybody by that time should have received their work permit. And so the interim work period, will only be in effect until May 31st. So if you haven't got your postgrad work permit, if you continue to work into June 1st, you would be working without authorization according to this policy. All right. This is another point.
We're going back to maintaining the status in Canada, which we've told people, maintain a status in Canada, stay compliant. And this, I think, has to do more with people coming back to Canada. You're abroad and trying to come back, right? So this is only to work. And Mark, I'll let you pick it up from here.
Yeah. So this email notice, I just wanted to touch on in terms of the note here. This does not restore your status. So just because you get the email that allows you to work, it doesn't actually restore your legal temporary resident status if it's expired. So it's intended to ensure that those with expired or expiring postgrads can head back to work until the open work permit is actually issued. But if you're out of status, you still have to apply for restoration. And if you're not sure how to do that, you can easily slide over to our site, click on Speak to a Lawyer, and book a consultation now. And for the short little 25 minutes that we just pack tons of information, we can help you put you back on track so that you're doing things properly. And there's lots of choices. I bet you could probably even book a consult with Cedric, like literally, 1:45 a.m. This is how late Cedric is up. So there's tons of opportunities. And if you can't get Cedric, there's any number of us as well. Chanel as well has got lots of availability. And so you can connect with her as well. So, or Alicia and I. So there's lots of choices to help you guys. You don't have to go alone. That's the key here. Okay. So eligible applicants must apply to restore, even if it's been more than 90 days since their status expired. And that's important because if you go on the government website and you look at what it means to restore, after 90 days, you can't restore normally, but this policy is opening up. And we've seen it through the pandemic as well. They did this. It's not been unheard of, but boy, you have to make sure that you're doing it properly. If you have a valid temporary resident visa, but are currently outside of Canada, it's still possible for you to come back. So one of the options, and if I go back to our website, let's see, we've got so many different pages here. Oh, I think I closed the page. I'm going to show you back in that blog post that Alicia had written. One of the options that she provided was, look, if you don't have an ability to support yourself, then maybe it's best for you just to return home. And that was one of the options. And that's something that we've provided to, our clients. And thankfully, that advice was still sound advice. So it's possible to come back to Canada and be authorized to work. However, once again, you guys, and remember, you'll still get emails. The interim work authorization email notice can't by itself be used to return to Canada. So you still need to have a valid temporary resident visa. Some of you may still have one. It might still be valid, although many of them expired when your postgrad work permit expired. There is a way to come back. And once again, I'd encourage you to slide over, click to speak to a lawyer. I ring the little triangle, and we can help guide you through that process if you're looking to come back. Okay.
Yes. And sorry, Mark, just very quickly, this is talking about, right, if you're visa exempt, you obviously don't need a temporary resident visa, but we're dealing with those situations with the ETA, but you still have to have a legal status in Canada, right? Like if your work permit expired, you must have applied for restoration, applied for another work permit, applied for a visitor status, right? So, but if you're visa exempt, you still have to have a status in Canada to be able to apply, right?
Yeah. And we'll get into further details as well, because you still have to apply online if you're outside of Canada. You apply for the work permit. There's specific instructions on how you need to word it. And this is where things can fall off the rails very quickly for you guys. If you do not complete your application forms correctly, and once again, that's why I have created the course, and I'm going to walk people through step by step through this. If you do not fill out the form properly, then you will be triaged into a regular work permit route, and they will say, this person doesn't qualify, I'm refusing this. So there are specific terms that you have to include within the context of the application form, and those things that we will cover in the course. All right. So that at a very high level covers kind of basically what we wanted to talk about today. We're going to get into Q&As in just a second here. In fact, you guys, you can start posting your questions now. I've got one super chat we'll hit. But those of you who are posting the questions, make sure that you put a Q in front of it, and then we will go forward and we'll start pulling those out. So you can start posting it now. Okay. So basically the last little piece I wanted to talk about was those who were eligible and applied for the temporary resident to permanent resident pathway. Some of you were issued open work permits through that program. Okay. And so the open work permit program for the TR to PR pathway was there to ensure that you won't lose your status while you're waiting for that to be finalized. And remember, the government has allocated a substantial, I think it's 35 to 40,000 finalization under the TR to PR pathway, PR application to be finalized not until the end of next year. And so you still need to have a way to maintain your work status. And so what this is saying here, that they recognize that some who have TR to PR permanent resident applications in the queue and will continue for some time, which is code for these are not a super priority for us. Those applying for an open work permit can now receive one with an end date of December 31st, 2024, once again, provided passport validity. And why do they put to the end of 2024? Well, they want to give people lots of time to make sure that their PR applications are finalized. So and you can see this is very telling, Cedric, very, very telling. About 2,500 TR to PR applicants, and many of them are ones that took my course because they went through really, really quick. Some of them are already PRs. Others applied for their open work permit right away, but they applied and received them, and they have an end date of December 31st, 2022. So some of them have work permits that are expiring, and now they're wondering, what do I do? Well, these individuals will soon also be receiving an email telling them that they may be able to get their work permit updated with a longer validity date. What's the triggers? We need to know that your mailing address is up to date, you're still in Canada, and you don't have to do anything. So for people whose current TR to PR pathway open work permits are expiring before December 31st, 2022, they can receive an updated work permit with the validity date to the end of 2024, another full 2 years, and it will be mailed to them, and you should get it sometime around mid-October. So pay attention to that, and if your passport is expired or is expiring before 2024, you will not receive the email and will not be eligible to change the length of your current work permit through the special measure. However, once again, this is where we fit in to help you guys. You're still eligible to apply and seek a longer work permit, either by applying to get the work permit to match the expiry of the passport or applying after you get a new passport. So there's some flexibility. And remember, if you need to update your mailing address, or if you opt out of receiving an open work permit through the process, you will no longer be eligible for the measure. So you'll need to apply online. And if we click on this, it will take us to the MyCIC account with the GC key. So Cedric, that is a very high level of what we have now seen the government announce. We've got our own thoughts about things, and that is just it. It is a super, super high level, but there is so much detail that we need to cover. So let's go through, and if you got any transition comments before I start pulling up the questions.
Well, you know what, Mark? I think I have a question that just came in on my Outlook from an existing client, and I think others clients would be in the same situation. So if you allow me, I say
go ahead.
we go straight ahead. So existing client that we've worked with, they say, can I apply for another work permit if I already filed a restoration of status? Right? So if you already filed an application for restoration, if you already have a work permit pending, spousal work permit, MIA work permit, bridging open work permit, right? What can they apply for this work permit?
Yes. I don't see any reason whatsoever why someone who's filed and actually tried to legitimately maintain their status is going to be prejudiced in any way, shape, or form by someone who has done nothing, right? Who's actually out of status. And arguably, I can't see anything in here unless we see the program delivery instructions that would suggest that someone who's been out of status for far more than 90 days, possibly including all the way back to September of 2021, if they can go through the program, I cannot see any reason why someone who's already submitted another application. Now, IRCC is going to have to sort that out on their end. I'm not sure if you'll get a refund of the fee that you've paid, but I can't see any reason why an individual under any type of implied status or otherwise would not be able to benefit from this. So we've got Gooner Boy here with the super chat. He says, hey, Mark and Cedric, thanks for everything you do. And this is great news for everyone, including some of us on implied status or maintained status. I was up for the earlier stream by Cedric as well. And thanks to Sean Fraser. Well, we'll give him shout outs because Mr. Sean Fraser finally has come through. So we'll give him his shout out. Okay. Sanyet says, my postgrad work permit expired 90 days ago. I returned to my country of origin, not sure what to do now. Well, so what does Sanyet do, Cedric?
So when you go on the page that we were on, there's a link to apply online, and it's going to bring you to a page where you can select that you're outside Canada, right? And this is, I think we did it very briefly. Yep. So there we go. So under number 5, or 3, perfect. And then we're going to go outside Canada, and it's going to bring us to this page that tells you a little bit more details about how to apply from outside Canada, right? So who can apply? You're going to have to go through this eligibility to make sure you're eligible to apply. You obviously, if you need a visa to come to Canada, you need a visa to come to Canada as well. So follow the steps. Again, you can't re-enter. You're going to get an email hopefully on August 8th saying that you're allowed to work, have interim authorization to work, but you cannot enter Canada with that letter. So you have to have a valid status, an ETA, a TRV to get to Canada. But again, we're just breaking into this right now. Take a look online to see if you qualify, right? How long is your passport valid for, right? Did you have a lapse? What's going on, right? So all these unanswered questions, but essentially you are able to apply if you're outside Canada.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Verxis says, great work, gentlemen. Thank you for everything you do. You're very welcome. Okay. Goku Lover here says, I have 2 ECA reps shared with IRCC. One when I created the account back in 2018. Second, when I shared it with the OINP. So I shared with IRCC too. I can't find or download the old one. Which date to use in the form? So I have 2 ECA. I'm not sure if this is related to us or if this is an express entry question. Not sure about that one.
Not sure
I think
either.
it's an express entry. We're gonna Goku. We're like tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I'll have my regular live Q&A, and you can bring that one up again. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Verxis says I'll be sure to subscribe. Thank you, Igor. Okay. All right. Oh, look at this. We even have Igor's even on there answering questions. That's great. It's okay. And we've got the link and everything. Perfect. So that's the link to the live stream. See, Igor's right in the background doing a bunch of stuff. Okay. We're doing it live. Famous last words. Yes, it is. Okay. Salmon says, what if I have already filed an application before this was announced? So this happens a lot, Cedric. There is a ton of people who've done this. I've seen it. I don't know who was giving them the wise, advice that they should do this. Their postgrads were expiring. Rather than changing to a visitor, someone said, oh, just file another work permit and tell them you want to do it under the new 18-month postgrad, and you can preempt the announcement. Okay, so what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that was always unofficial. There's no clear guidance on this. To those you have done it, it was not something that we recommended because there was no program. Like the program didn't exist. Yeah. I did see on Twitter it did work for a few people. Even then, lawyers are very skeptical to apply for the program, right? So as we talked about a few moments ago, we believe based on the information that's available to us that you're going to be able to apply again for another work permit. In other words, you have one pending work permit application, and you can make the new one, if you will, your extension under this program, right? So look out for more information that's going to be published, and let's see if you're going to receive on August 8th, if you're going to receive that email to allow you to return to work, right? Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And based on Salmon's follow-up here, I think, you should receive the automatic extension. So we'll see how that goes. Verxis, that's hilarious. I am such a poor sucker. Yes, you are, Verxis. You are. Okay. Okay, now Shale is throwing out another question. Save this one for tomorrow, Shale. She's talking about the new TR to PR pathway, M44. The minister has until September to create some other pathway to figure out something for students. And so we'll touch on that tomorrow. Okay, Raj says, good afternoon. I landed in Canada. Okay, so Raj says he landed in Canada in June 2022 on a postgrad work permit. My permit expires in February 2023. It seems the slowness on IRCC's side to issue my permit caused me the opportunity to have cost me the opportunity to have a renewal. That's right, Raj. Right now, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers, and individuals. There's always going to be someone that's going to be left out. And if your postgrad expires after, that's the case. Okay. Okay, Bright says, can I have a link to the IRCC announcement for the postgrad work permit? Want to read extensively on that as I wait on your course. Thank you. Absolutely, Bright. And I think Cedric, Igor's probably already on top of that one. But we'll make sure that we get that to you, Bright. Okay. All right. Dante says, do I need to know French as well if I want to become an immigrant? Immigration officer? Oh, not immigration consultant. Well, I can tell you the border officers, you don't need to speak French, but it's definitely an asset that they look at for sure.
Yeah, you can go on
Okay.
the jobs.gc website and look at to become an immigration officer. I think they actually have, I've heard about people talking about, I think they actually have, it's still open if you want to apply, and they give you French training. So you have training for French, I believe. Obviously depends on the position, but I think some positions, yeah, are French mandatory, some aren't. So definitely take a peek if you want to become an immigration officer and help us process all these applications.
Yeah. Bright says, Mark, my permit expires on the 15th of August, and I read your full course on postgrad work permit extension. Since you'll be away next week, the Q&A sessions might come a little bit late for me. Bright, we can work that out. Don't worry about it. We'll work that one out for you.
And Bright, do keep in mind, you know, I am teleworking abroad, and I'm
Yep.
available, as Mark saw,
Yep.
from 1 a.m. 1 a.m. Mark's time. So it's
Yep.
around 9 a.m. London time. Tuesdays I have my own Q&A. So there we go.
Yeah. Okay, this is a great question from Ida. Ida, this is one that we do not have an answer to. It says, what about this social insurance number and health card? Are we allowed to extend them through this interim authorization email? So the social insurance number, who freaking cares? Like your employer, you've got your number. This does authorize it. Can you get a new social insurance number because of the 900 series ones that expire? It's not really a big deal, Ida. Ultimately, if your employer continues to pay, it will be tracked. And as far as getting a new one on the basis of this, I have to assume federal government, they should speak each other's language, and you should be able to extend your social insurance number on the interim. However, generally speaking, they do like to see the work permits, but it's still not going to prevent you from going back to work. When it comes to health cards, each province is a little different. And I don't know if Cedric has any insight on that. I can tell you that yeah, they're governed provincially, and each of them have different rules, and it just depends. So I won't be able to give you a clear answer on that one, Ida. Okay, let's see here. So this one's Kabachi. Says, hi Mark, postgrad expired, applied for work permit extension and received letter work permit extension. Do we need to apply again by August the 2nd? So I think this is another person who submitted just a frivolous work permit extension without any support for it, and got the generic response that says you have valid status until this day. What do they need to do? And well, I guess we don't know a lot about Kabachi, which category Kabachi fits under, but we know for sure that it's going to have to be an online because the work permit's already expired. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
Cedric?
exactly. So if you already have a status and your current status might expire, right? You're able to figure out another work permit. Listen, if you can get your 18 months extension, we highly recommend you do. It's going to give you a great opportunity to get enough CRS points for express entry. So in your case, we don't know what the letter received says. It might tell you to reapply. I would definitely reapply if this is something that you're looking to get another 18 months. Don't assume that it's going to be automatic if you've already sent your application weeks ago, before it was announced.
Yeah, and remember, there's specific language that you have to have in the form, and if you don't do it, they're not going to treat it. It would be very unlikely that they would maintain and then pull those work permits over to the new program because you simply didn't ask for the right thing. So keep that in mind. And then Verxis says, Cedric, that you are the best. So I had to post that.
Thank you.
Okay. Armin, totally apprehensive, which questioning, doubtful. I'm with you, Armin. He says, starting August the 8th, I won't get excited until I receive this email. IRCC has shown that they are not good with dates. Remember, mid-June? Hey, come on, Armin. He said in the coming weeks. It's only been a few 6, 7, 8, whatever weeks. All right. Okay, so here we go. SMN says, hi, do I still qualify for this postgrad extension if my work permit expires on December 15th, 2022 due to passport expiry with an option of extension till May 2023? That's a really good question. So basically, his postgrad was only issued to a shorter date because his passport expired before. Oh, I can't see any reason why not. That's maybe a fortuitous occurrence.
We're gonna have to do some more reading and understanding about this, but
maybe
if when we're talking about immigration, yeah. come talk to us about it, but we're talking there's there's no real discretion, right? If you meet the category, you're eligible, you meet the requirements, go with it. I mean, it's really interesting.
That's a great one. Maybe SMN, maybe.
I mean,
Okay.
listen, we try our best. We do our best. We you've been in the business for how many years now, Mark?
Yeah, a few. I don't know, 18,
so
19. Yeah, it's all a blur.
so we definitely try our best.
Yep. Okay, Sanchit says postgrad expires November 2022 and passport valid till 2028. Can I use the change my address tool to change my address on my previous work permit application using my UCI before the email comes in? It's the question is whether or not, see, remember to change an address, you guys, you have to send it through the web form if you're doing it prior to the email being sent. And what's the likelihood, Cedric, that within a week's time, before the 8th or whenever it is, that IRCC will have updated Sanchit's address with the new address before the email comes out? Like, what do you think the odds are if he's sending a web form?
Wow, web forms right now are taking 7 to 8 weeks to process. So yeah, get that email coming in. And Mark, we're seeing even some PR applications being rejected because
Yep.
people send stuff by web form. It takes too long for a medical exam, and a PR application gets rejected. It's sent
Yep.
by web form. So
Yep.
listen to the email. Wait for the email. Listen. Fingers crossed, it's all going to work out.
Yep. And this is the question we don't have an answer for, Mary Beth. Can you please confirm for the postgrad holders who extended theirs in 2021? Can they do it again? We don't know. So stay tuned. Make sure you come back at 5:30. We'll digest everything by that time. Hopefully there's some program delivery instructions for officers, maybe, although I don't often find those getting released contemporaneously with the news flash on the main IRCC website. So we'll see if there's some direction on that. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Vera says, my work permit expired June 13th. I applied for the visitor record June 12th. It's still processing. Does this mean I have valid temporary resident status in Canada?
Yeah, so from the time that your postgrad work permit expired, you had to stop working, right? You had to stop working, you cannot continue working, and correct, you do get a maintained status when you're switching from a work permit to a visitor status. Maintained status, applied status, same thing, right? But yeah, so you would be under maintained status right now, and as we saw, there's no 90-day to restore the status anymore, just for this specific program. So what you'd be looking to do is you're going to be applying online, you're going to be doing an application to restore your status at the same time, even though you already have your application. We're going to try to restore your status back so you're able to work, and then you're hoping that next week you get the email so you can return to work.
Yeah. All right. Aminata says, what is the letter there saying we have to attach? What should we answer to question 3 on IMM 5710? Okay. So you know where I'm going with this, Cedric. I'm going to go right back here and share my screen. Right here is where I'll be going through everything detailed, what you put into the form, how you answer the questions. And if you join me tomorrow at 5:30, that's when I'm going to be doing the live access only. So in your situation here, as we flip back to the original question from Aminata, and in the description below, you can click on the link and subscribe to the live access. Like I said, it's $25 and I'm making it available for all of you who've been out of work and just don't have resources. If you want to access the full course, that is going to be available immediately after I finish the recordings, and it's going to be being created literally as I go. And so what's the letter they're saying we have to attach? That's to your postgrad work permit. That will only come and they will send that automatically to you. Once they've, everybody should be getting those that fit within the parameters of September to December 2022, September 2021 to December 2022. Watch your email. That's where it's coming. And then you can show your employer together with your postgrad work permit that's expired that, hey, even though it's expired, I'm still authorized to return to work now. What should we answer in question 3 on IMM 5710? That is all within the instructions in the program delivery guide, which will be covered as I go through creating of the course. Okay, Uzair says, applied for extension but didn't receive the work permit extension letter. I think I applied for another work permit by mistake. Does it still mean I'm on maintained status?
Yeah, so usually if you don't meet the eligibility for the work permit, you can't just submit an application for work permit that you never qualify for and then hope that you're going to continue working under a maintained status. So that's generally not allowed. And you might have seen that, for example, with TR to PR applicants where they submitted an application, but for example, they were ineligible because their language score, they weren't working and whatnot. This doesn't mean that you can work on your temporary TR to PR work permit because you applied for a program that you're not eligible for, right? You can't apply for a spousal open work permit if you don't have a spousal application, right? That's not going to allow you to continue working. So in this case, it's going to have to come down to whether or not you were allowed to apply for this other work permit. And if you weren't, you most likely are not on maintained status, but we saw that you were able to restore your status over 90 days if you're right. So that's
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
great
there's lots
news
of
for you,
grace
but
who's there. Yeah, there's lots of forgiveness within the
there's
system
there's
for people. Yeah.
exactly. And I just want to go back to the last question just very briefly. We talked about getting the email, right? The email allowing you to work. So there's no requirement for you to submit an application, right? Don't rush to submit this tomorrow, to submit this
Yeah.
week in hopes you're going to get the email. You're going to get the email regardless. Everyone's going to get this email. So make sure that it's properly prepared. And we're here to help because it's a one-shot, one-time deal for this
Yes.
postgrad permit.
Okay, Salmon says, thanks for answering, you guys. You guys rock. Definitely plan on taking the course. Fantastic, Salmon. I will see you right over here in our upcoming course. And remember, there's 2 options for you guys. And you can go to the site, click on the link, and you'll see a whole bunch more here. Okay, and this is where we've got lots of support from the team. We're going to pull this one up here, and I'm going to flip over to the web. And you can see here, IRCC has also just announced interim work authorizations for some current and former postgraduate work permit holders. You can see here that they've got a whole bunch of more information, and you'll be able to, well, realistically, we can actually just kind of go through it quick. So we'll send you an email to let you know that you're allowed to work temporarily in Canada under the temporary public policy. This applies to you if your postgrad work permit is expired or will expire. So it doesn't matter. It's going to come to you. If you're not sure if you should apply or wait for us to email you, answer a few questions right here, and then you can find out how to get your open work permit. So this is basically breaking down which category you fall into. And then you can show this email to employers to prove that you can work in Canada until May 31st, 2023, while you wait for the new work permit to come through. And yeah, but you must be in Canada, and your postgrad work permit must have expired or be expiring within that time period. Print and attach the email and show it to your employer. And if your employer has questions, then show them this webpage. That's another option. And the email allows you to work under the same conditions that are listed on your postgrad work permit. And if you're outside, you can't benefit from it. However, you can still apply for the new open work permit up to 18 months if you're eligible. And if you don't get a new open work permit, the purpose of this email is to allow you to start working right away while you apply and wait for your application to be processed. And hopefully by the time the email expires, you'll have received a decision on your work permit application. So there you go. Boom. Big little update. And I think Alicia posted that one. So thanks so much, Alicia. Appreciate that. One of the
And
fine
Mark,
lawyers in our firm. Yeah.
on the fly, on the spot, I am going to invite Alicia to join us. So I'm actually going to step out for a moment.
Okay.
Alicia's going to be going to be jumping in for a few minutes. I know that she's been researching this extensively.
Awesome. Let's pull her in.
So yeah, let's pull her in. So thank you for joining us. We're looking to have more content on this, and for the time being, I'm just going to jump out on the fly here. And Alicia has
Sounds
tons
good.
of stuff to tell us.
Sounds good. Let's see if I can find Alicia's the page with her here. I'm gonna flip this over. Oh yeah, okay, we did that one. We'll close that one, and I'll close this. Okay, I've got a few little extra pieces here. Just give me a second. There. Okay. See, we're doing this on the fly. Now I've got to find this. Okay, I'm gonna add in Alicia. Just give me a second. All right, we're doing it on the fly. Now I got to just change your name here. See, this is the challenging part. I think I might have one. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay, turn that one off. Oh, I turned the wrong one off. Okay, let's see. Oh, there we go. We'll close that one. There, look at that. See, I'm even live, and we're going crazy with questions here, Alicia. So you've had a chance while we've been doing this. See, this is the benefit. See, while Cedric and I were doing this, I just went live right away. Alicia's had a chance to devour everything now. So all those questions that I wasn't able to answer, now Alicia it's like following up with the reinforcements. That's what this is all about. So, all right. So how you doing, Alicia?
I'm well. I'm well. You guys are doing a great job.
Awesome. All right. So we've got Alicia who's joining us here, another lawyer within Healthy Immigration Law, and you guys know her well from the Thursday Q&As. Okay, let's keep zipping through here. So Evo says the wait is finally over, my friend. Yes, it is, my friend. Yes, it is. Okay. Thomas says TR to PR status, please update. No updates, my friend. Could be until 2023. Okay, let's jump to a few let's see, this one here. I think we've already answered this question, Aminata. He says, what is the letter they're saying we have to attach to the application? What should we answer to question 3? Okay, so we've done this. And like I said, when it comes to the 5710 form, in the course, I'm going to be going through how to fill out that whole form. Okay, SMN says, 3 years post-grad is going to expire December 15th. Oh, it looks like I've already answered some of these. I'm just slowly getting down to them now. Let's see. Option to extend till May 2023 due to past expiry. Do I still qualify under this policy? I think we've already answered that one. Possibly. What are your thoughts on that one, Alicia? So basically what happened was for SMN here, because his passport expired sooner, he wasn't given the full length of his 3-year postgrad, and instead it was just issued till December 15th, 2022. So what do you think? Like, do you think
I
in
think
that
for sure
situation?
the policy is not meant to capture people in that scenario. It's meant to capture people who had an older
Yep.
postgrad, and that this is something that's helping to save people who were derailed by COVID.
Yep.
But it will be interesting because a lot of this process is automatic, right? Some people are getting these emails automatically. Some people hopefully will get them automatically, but we're not sure whether that will actually manifest depending on how good their triage system is. But it's an open question to see if other people who don't technically fit the parameters of what IRCC was trying to target might be able to piggyback and benefit off of this new 18-month open work permit. We'll have to see if they announce in the program directives later on the fine print.
Saksham says, currently waiting for a visa. I think visitor's record is probably what he's talking about, which I applied during my 90-day restoration period. How do I proceed? Because I already selected to restore to a visa. I think visitor is what he's referring to, and not worker. Do I restore again to a worker?
So generally, if you needed to restore and you already properly did that restoration application, and this is the key because make sure that you paid that $200 restoration fee in addition to the visitor visa fee. So that's key. Otherwise, it's not a valid restoration application. And also you needed to indicate on there that you were asking to restore. But, if you are now currently eligible for the new 18-month public policy extension, then that's a work permit application. It's a separate type of application. So if you already dealt with the restoration and you've got proof that you dealt with the restoration, then maybe all you need is that open work permit now. But be really careful because you don't want to be in a situation where you may need to restore and you didn't include that extra $200 fee and properly go through the process in this new application. So I would say we would probably need to take a look at what you did on that old application in order to be able to give you some informed advice on that.
We'll just hit that little ringer. Okay, this super chat's from Dutch. The Dutch says, I'm on implied status for an open work permit to survive. In the implied letter, the end date states July 26th. No response from IRCC yet. Should I apply for restoration as well when I apply for 18-month extension? This is a great question. So, and this is something that intuitively people wouldn't really think about. But so on implied status, when you're implied and you're then applying for another work permit, which traditionally IRCC doesn't like that kind of thing, but this is open season now. What do you think? Do they apply for restoration as well, or just a straight up work permit?
I think if there's any question on whether to apply for restoration, apply for restoration. It's an extra $200 application fee, and it might be the only chance that you have to be able to fix it as part of this public policy. If there's any question about whether you actually fell out of status, whether that was more than 90 days ago, depending on the date that you submitted that application and had a first response, or maybe, when your status originally expired. So if there's any question on whether or not to apply for restoration and you're not sure, the safe thing is to simply apply for the restoration and pay that extra $200 and follow the instructions on the new public policy on if you also need to restore.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Next question. Priyanuj says, mine is expiring mid-December. What shall I do now?
I guess we'd need more details. Is it the visitor status? Is it
I'm
the work
assuming
permit status?
we're going to go with post-grad work permits expiring in mid-December. What shall I do now? I think the answer is hang tight and wait, Pranaj. Okay. Next one. This is from Andres. And he said, or Andre, it says, my wife and I both received implied status letters. Mine didn't have a deadline. Interesting. Hers had. She quit her job before the deadline, not to violate the letter. This is the part that really just hurts me because Andres, not to violate the letter. Is she considered out of status? So maybe you can respond to that because this really hurts when I hear that.
So it's really frustrating. I understand that a lot of people are very confused because of these IRCC letters. So the law says that if you have applied, if you've remained in Canada and you have applied before your original status expired, so if you had your work permit and you applied before the work permit expired, then you have implied or maintained status to be able to continue under the same conditions as long as you don't leave Canada. So as long as you are working for the same employer, same job, same place, same everything, then you can continue to work until you get a decision on that application. And for sure, the application processing times are huge right now for in Canada work permit applications. So you might be looking at, I think it was 163 days last time I checked.
Yeah.
It's ginormous. So you might be looking at a very long time where you still have that maintained or implied status and the ability to work. However, immigration got everything confused by sending these automatic letters as part of your application that said, okay, you're authorized to work until X date, which is usually about 3 or 4 months from the date that they applied. So yeah, it's still saying 163 days right now for an in Canada work permit extension. So what happened then is if their processing time keeps creeping longer than what the original date is that they put on this automatic letter, people get super confused about whether they are able to continue to work. Legally, you should be able to continue to work. The letter is confusing, and there is actually guidance on IRCC's website about how to get an updated letter, right? So the reason they provided it was so employers could see something saying, okay, here's an official letter from immigration that you are authorized to continue to work. But it's backfired now because the processing times have gotten so long that now employers are saying, well, are you actually authorized to work? Because the letter says that it expired on this date.
Worse.
You can't, it's worse. You can go and get an updated letter, but technically, you don't have to because the law said that as long as you applied properly before your work permit expired, you do have maintained or implied status to continue to work.
Okay, this is Masabin, and he says, I'm applying from outside of Canada for this post-grad extension. His post-grad work permit expired in December of 2021. Now wondering if I get the interim authorization, can I work remotely for an employer? Thanks in advance.
And so, Mark, this is the link that you just pulled up recently because they've just, put a little bit more information on about these letters because no doubt this is going to cause unending amounts of confusion for certain people too. So the letter is not itself going to authorize work. So you'll have to apply for that open post-grad 18-month work permit and be issued that work permit before you can work in Canada.
In Canada.
There is always a question about whether you're entering the Canadian labor market if you're working remotely for an employer. And Masabin, I don't know if you're working for a Canadian employer or who or where or what the details are about this employer. But be very, very careful that if you are entering the Canadian labor market, and Mark, you and I have shared this link
Yep.
before, but there's program delivery guidance on what constitutes work. And there's some interpretive guidelines. If you are working for a Canadian employer, paid in Canadian funds, if you have a Canadian bank account, if you have Canadian clients, all those are indicators that you are entering the Canadian labor market. And you have to be really careful and make sure that you are properly authorized with a valid work permit. So take
And
a
I guess
look at
the
that
yeah,
carefully.
and the only caveat I guess is if you're physically outside of Canada, then I can't see any world where a work permit is actually needed. But if you come in, even as a visitor, then that whole equation changes, and then you expose yourself to a potential finding that, oh, okay, you needed a work permit, and now you're here in Canada. So that's where you have to be really careful.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see what's next here. Okay, Joyita says, I'm waiting to receive my renewed passport to apply for the extension. Lots of people are in this situation. So once I get the email after the 8th of September that I can start working, can I start working before applying?
And it seems from that interpretive guideline that you can start working
Yeah.
because they are expecting people to apply, but they haven't put a deadline on the application. So I think if people don't apply at all, then you're in trouble. If you've got that interim authorization email, but you haven't ever applied in the future, it's going to be a problem. But if you've got intention to apply for the new
Mhm.
public policy with 18 months, then it seems like if you have that letter, that's what they're saying on their
Yeah.
interpretive guideline.
Yeah, and the hard part is that the instructions are quite limited. They don't cover all of these nuanced situations. So, Yoida, I encourage you to join us this afternoon at 5:30. There may be a little bit more insight that we've gleaned in that time period. Although I've got a ton of client work lined up here this afternoon. Um, so 5:30, and then also those of you, there will be, once the postgrad work permit course is actually launched, the full one, there'll be master classes associated with it, and we'll be able to dive in a little bit deeper. We'll have a lot more information within the Canadian Bar Association. There's, I actually have a meeting with IRCC, and I just wonder if it might be about this, Alicia. So I have a meeting with IRCC. This is something I didn't mention before, scheduled for Thursday. Let me just see the actual time. It's Thursday at 11 a.m. So I wouldn't be surprised because it's about temporary resident update. And so I wouldn't be surprised if it's to go over the ins and outs and answer questions. And so I'll have definitely a lot more information and insight that I will share. Boy, this is sure hit at a crappy time because I'm planning on slipping away on Thursday, but we'll make it. We'll do it remotely from the vehicle as my son Adam is driving. Okay. Bright comes back. He says, when it says address up to date, is it referring to email address or mailing address? As I recently moved out of my old apartment into a new apartment, could you guys rectify this for me? I think I can jump in and just say, yeah, it means your mailing address because that's where they're going to be mailing that's where they're going to be mailing the work permit to. That's why they want to know what's up to date. So that's where we're referring to, Bright. Okay. Saksham says restored to visitor during 90-day restoration period, still waiting for it to approve. Not surprising. Do we restore to a worker now or just apply for the policy without caring about the restoration part? So restored to a visitor during 90-day restoration period, but no response. So in this is different than the other one where they were under maintained status or implied status. So how about that one,
Correct.
Alicia?
And Sakshan, I'd say, book a consult so we can review it in detail. But if there's any doubt about it, then apply to restore as part of that open public policy right now because it's the safest thing to do if you're in doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next question. We'll go a little bit longer, and then we'll shut this down because they're going to be going live again at 5:30. And well, I need time to do some digging and research. But okay, let's go through just a couple more here. Yash says my postgrad expired on April 25th, 2022. I'm on implied status. What should I choose in options like I have temporary status or I lost my status more than 90 days ago? So what is the status in that situation of Yash, Alicia?
So, Yash, if you actually did apply, so you say you're on implied status, I'm assuming then that you had put in some sort of application to change conditions or extend your status. So hopefully, if you actually changed your status or applied to change your status to a visitor, then you would have implied status and you should not have fallen out of status. But it's not clear, when you applied or what you applied for to say that you're on implied status right now.
I almost think we should do a separate video just talking about these various interwoven status issues. Because here's a question from Gotham, and he says, my work permit expired June 27th, and I applied for an extension to be on maintained status. That's valid until October 21st, 2022. Once again, that stupid, fake, arbitrary date that means nothing. Should I apply for restoration along with the open work permit? I think we've already answered this one, but.
Yeah, and Gautam, what kind of application did you make, right, for another type of work permit? And so if you had filed an application for a work permit that had zero underlying basis, then I think that's really dangerous territory. You're on thin ice if you had no underlying basis for the work permit extension that you filed. If you had a new LMIA or your employer had some sort of offer of employment through the International Mobility Program and you had a rock solid work permit application extension, then that's a totally different story. Then you're probably fine. But I don't know what kind of work permit extension you applied for.
Yeah, I ring the bell. Okay, Satvir says, hey, Mark, got my LMIA work permit approved yesterday. Coming to Canada, Vancouver on 5th of August. Thanks. All right. There's the first applause. That's awesome, Satvir. So happy. Verxis says, love your energy, Mark. Thanks for commenting on my comments. Haha, you're very welcome. Okay. Sunil says, can one apply for the new postgrad extension if one received extension in the previous public policy? So that's one we can't answer yet, Sunil. We just don't know yet. All right. Benjamin says, God bless you guys. I need help to move. Okay. Well, anything we can do, just let us know. Okay. Vinesh says, my work permit expired June 11th and I applied for extension to be maintained. That's valid until October 21st. Should I apply for restoration? Wow. See, a lot of these are all the same types of questions here. I don't know if there's anything new to add to Vinesh there. I think we've probably covered that already.
Yeah, we need to know what kind of extension application you made. So the October 21st date basically is meaningless because that just automatically is in the letter from immigration, but we need to know what kind of application you had put in prior to your work permit actually expiring.
Bakang says, welcome back, Mark. Boy, have we missed you. But, big but, Alicia and Cedric have held down the fort pretty good. And absolutely, they have. Absolutely. They did an awesome job. And this is the beginning, you guys. No longer is this going to have to be the Mark show, but we can highlight the awesome lawyers. And you guys will see pretty quick that they're all pretty much smarter than I am anyway. So, although I just know how to work the video, although Cedric is pretty much caught up to me now, and he's fully proficient in live streaming. Okay. And Alicia is not far behind too. Okay. So we've got Sunil. We answered this one. I think you've posted your question about 500 times. We don't know the answer to that. Okay. Let's see here. And I'm just focusing on the post-grad questions, guys. So if I'm skipping, remember, I'm going to go live tomorrow, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And then Alicia, I'll probably have Cedric drive the ship for you on Thursday if he's willing to do your live stream. Okay. Saksham, I think we've already covered Sakshams. A lot of these are duplications. If we're on implied status, restored, should we select lost status more than 9 days ago? Okay, yeah, we've already hit that one.
And there are some specific instructions. So when it goes apply online, it gives you some very specific instructions, and Mark's going to cover this when he goes through in more detail, but there are some very specific requirements for how you fill out that online questionnaire, and you've got to be really, really careful not to mess it up. So especially for restoration, they do have some program guidance on that, on the details of how to apply.
Yeah. And one thing I want to point out too, that I've not done a very good job at, is that within the firm, we are fully able and willing to assist you guys in filing the actual application if that is something that you need assistance with. If you're just worried, you're uncertain as to whether or not you're doing it right, we do this all the time for our clients. And so you can absolutely reach out and book a consult with any of us any of the lawyers within the firm. So we're all here and we can help you in whatever degree of assistance that you need. So it's not, the course is there for people that want to drive the ship and do most of it on their own. The consults are there to give people a little bit of assistance if they have trouble with just certain aspects, they're not sure about certain things. And then we do our collaborative review approach, which I absolutely love, Alicia. And I think personally that this is the absolute best way of filing an application and making sure that it is as correct as possible through our collaborative review approach. So easiest way to do that is just to click on speak to a lawyer and connect with us, and we can walk you guys through the whole process. We can review your applications before they go out. There's a whole host of different ways in which we can support you. So just wanted to just let people know about that. Okay, this one is Dr. Monsi, says husband applied for a work permit 20th of March. I'm assuming that's March, but still haven't got his work permit. What's the process time for the same? Well, I think we've looked at the processing times, right? And we can see that those are off the charts. So I don't know what more to say other than IRCC processing times are horrible. And when we last pulled those up, if we look here and we look at the work permit, you can pretty much trust, because the minister actually is doing what I told him to do, which is to make sure that people have the ability to see what the real processing times are. And right now, this is so interesting, Alicia. Paper is faster than online, but hey, at least they're being transparent. 163 days. That's insane. That is
and this
absolutely insane.
for an inside Canada application. If you're in the unfortunate situation of doing an outside Canada application for original work permit, depending on your country of nationality, you might be looking at almost a year of processing time. So it really does depend on country of origin. But yeah, 45 weeks for India right now.
All right, we'll go a couple more here and then we'll shut her down here. We've been going strong for an hour and a half now. Okay, let's see who is next. Okay, we'll take this one from Sam. He says, Mark and Cedric, IRCC mentions the email to allow people with expired postgrad to work. Should we provide this email along with our proof of application to the employers?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So once you get that email from IRCC, it should hopefully come automatically if you're in categories, the first few categories on the new public policy updates. Then that email is your interim authorization to prove that you are able to work, even if you have that expired postgrad work permit. And you can give it to your employer and say, this is how I am able to work while I wait for this new public policy to work its way through. And the intention, of course, is that you should be applying for the online process if you needed to do the online process.
Erin asked the question we've received many times before. She benefited from the past postgrad. Can she benefit from this one? And that's a question that we just can't answer at this stage. I think personally, there's a good chance that the answer is going to be no, but I never would have dreamed that they would have opened up restoration all the way back to September if someone was out of status that whole time. So anything can happen, Irene. We're going to dig into more detail, but join us at 5:30, and we might have a little bit more insight if they've released a little bit more in terms of program delivery instructions. But otherwise, some of you may need to wait until Thursday when I have my meeting with the officials that created this program, and then I'll try to share some insight with you. Let's see what's next here. Okay, here's another tricky one. This is Mirunalini, says husband's work permit expired August the 12th, 2021. So, okay. And his restoration status expired on November 20th, 2021. Not sure. He applied for visitor visa and we are in implied status. Do we eligible to apply to the postgrad work permit? I think that's a no if the August is the date.
That's right. So this only goes back to, they are very specific on which dates you have to have had that postgrad work permit, and it's back to September of 2021. So if you're outside of that window, then this public policy is not going to help.
Yeah. Same thing goes if you're January the 1st of 2023. You also wouldn't qualify. Nyoka says postgrad expired April 15th, applied for visitor, still in process. Do I need to restore or am I considered unapplied status? We've answered that one as well. Okay, Alicia and Mark, I applied for visitor record to maintain status. The application is in process. Is it counted as a valid status or I must apply for restoration? You can see it over and over again.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
so
go ahead, Alicia.
if you have status, right? If you did apply for a change of conditions, if you were on a work permit and you said there's no legit way that I can get another work permit, therefore I'm going to change my application status to applying for visitor status, that is valid status. It doesn't give you the authorization to work. Being on a visitor visa or a visitor record or implied status on a visitor record does not give you the ability to work. But if you do get an email from immigration that gives you that interim authorization to work, then all of a sudden you do have that interim authorization to work. And of course, you'd want to put in that application for the open public policy work permit if you do have the ability to do so.
And I'm just going to remind everyone again, because a lot of these questions are very, very specific to you. And at any point in time, and I don't do a good enough job of this, I know I don't, because of the offering and the focus on trying to help as many people as possible. Remember, we have lots of capacity within the firm. We specifically designed this for when this 18-month program was announced. You can come, you can click on speak to a lawyer up here, and you can benefit from our collaborative review approach, which essentially is where we go through everything before you submit it, and literally even submit it together with you in your own GC account through a Zoom or a Teams screen share, whatever is most comfortable for you. We don't take your passwords. We don't take your login information. We're just there to work collaboratively with you to file that application, make sure that it's being submitted right the first time. And like I said, there's just very little room for error within this. The government has given a ton of a ton of leeway to people because they themselves have created this situation. And so the eligibility and the ability to file, they've been very flexible, but we've seen with the TR to PR pathway, they're still not afraid to be ruthless and cruel to people. And we have those consults all the time. And if this is your last shot, you guys, especially while we wait for the CRS scores to come down into that range and for them to start doing more CECs and to expand it back to more regular draws come January, if you really, really critically need to get more Canadian work experience to increase your points, you can't afford to make a mistake here. So so don't hesitate to reach out and let us help you within Healthy Immigration Law, our law firm. All of the people here that we have when you go to our team, excuse me, we are all Canadian immigration lawyers. Alicia and I have been at this game for years and years and years. And Chanel has gone through the express entry process herself. And she's a new young lawyer, super intelligent, super smart. Cedric has been around the block working for the government, and we're all Canadian immigration lawyers. And you'll find that we are very, very flexible, very, very accessible, and we're here to support you in any way. All right, let's jump to please.
I just wanted to quickly add to that, Mark. Like, we do our best to try to provide this free information. Mark's got his courses. We do have the consultations. So when you book and speak to a lawyer, then we have a consultation, and that's a 25-minute consultation, or you can book a 50-minute consultation. And sometimes we can set you right on the path that you need to go. And sometimes, though, it's of course impossible to review your entire application within 25 minutes. Yeah. But that does start the process for everybody. So we can understand if it's a good case that we can work together, we can figure out what the issues are, and we start the collaborative review once you retain us for a full review of the file. Yeah. So there are some tiny little things that we can manage to get taken care of in that 25-minute window. Like, I know I had jumped on with Cedric last week to talk about the changes for the students and what's happening with express entry on the Canadian credential recognition. And some people said, well, I can't find it. Where is it? Where are the new questions? And so in 25 minutes, for sure, I can help you find those questions, and we can talk about where they are and how to fix your profile, because I know a lot of people will not realize that you have to go through and then resubmit and then sign and then transmit your application to update it. So there's things like that we can help with in 25 minutes. Most of the time, there are lots of things that come up in those 25 minutes where we realize that there's probably other things going on in your application that you didn't even realize could derail your whole permanent residence application, or there's some big issue that needs to be addressed right away. So, this is a great opportunity to hopefully have a little bit of free advice. If you need more, we're definitely there for you to make sure that you're on the right path.
Absolutely. And like we talked about, Alicia said that change to the express entry. Well, this is something that I'm right, literally, you guys, in the midst of doing the master classes for the Express Entry course that is running the masterclass series from August 1st to the 4th. And so, yeah, so this is great in real time. It's kind of hit right in the sweet spot. And now today in our live session tonight at 4 p.m., right before we go live with this, boy, better get some good nourishment and to get me through.
Fresh air.
Yeah, but yeah, good point. Go for a little walk. But the course, we go through step by step through the whole process. And the postgrad 18-month extension course, like I said, there are 2 options for you guys. And some of you may just want information now as quickly as possible. So I'm granting live access to watch me record. It's like you're coming and attending a lecture that I'm giving on how to file the application. And so as I record those, you can watch them. Now, this one doesn't allow for access to everything. You just watch it as a recording, like you're sitting in, auditing a class in university. And but I will be recording these, and then they will form a part of the full course that has all the sample documents, worksheet templates, and everything on demand that you can watch, as well as 2 days of 1 hour long Q&A sessions. And I'm going to see if I can figure it out to maybe do it sooner, given the fact Bright said that his permit's going to be expiring sooner. But Alicia, I'm going to be on the road driving through central northern Alberta. And I know that there's not going to be great reception, and there's nothing worse than trying to do a masterclass when you don't have a good feed like this. So we'll keep everybody posted on that. But the links below, you guys can click. And the reason I offer the $25 one is because I know a lot of you are out of work, haven't been working. And even for $197 US, you're going to learn more about that than, well, no one knows anything about this program. And I'm going to be breaking it down in detail so that you guys have the information you need to file it right the first time. All right. Yep. So Angela says, on a visitor visa in Canada, am I eligible to apply for 18-month open work permit? Well, this is, I think I'll just go out on the limb here, Alicia, and just say, if you don't have a postgrad and you don't fit within the parameters, then the answer is no.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is not to cure everybody.
No.
This is not just a free-for-all open work permit. You have to have had that postgrad work permit, or you've done the TR to PR application way back before November of 2021.
Yeah. And both Chris Sam, and Mary Beth, I think she didn't see the answer from before, are also asking those who currently hold work permits or have work permits under the previous 18-month public policy. We just don't know yet. Okay. Chaitanya, hey Chaitanya, says, got an ITA a year ago. Still here watching your live. Yes, you are. Just love the knowledge all you exceptional lawyers provide. Still sorting some stuff for some parent applications. Haven't made my mind yet. Okay, well, let us know, Chaitanya. We're here to help you, my friend. And it's awesome. One of the successful alumnus of the courses and a client. And yeah, Chaitanya, we've been with you all the way through, and it's exciting to know that your journey at least is over. Now we'll see what we can do to help your parents. And yeah, Arlene asked that question again. Okay. So Yash says, thank you for your answer. I applied for the open work permit extension on April the 20th, 2022, before my postgrad expired on April 25th, 2022. That's fine, Yash. You're still eligible to apply. Okay. Let's see if I can jump through there. We're just about to the end here. Okay, Ashant says, my work permit expired December 28th, 2021, and I applied for extension of the postgrad work permit without any LMIA or support from an employer to come on maintained status. No result yet. Do we need to restore first?
Yeah, that sounds like it requires some more details. It sounds like a triangle's required, and yeah, that sounds a bit tenuous.
Okay, Tara asks an interesting question. What happens if you apply for this new postgrad restoration and leave the country?
Well, we don't know. We don't know exactly what's going to happen on that. But of course, if you have implied status or maintained status, you lose that as soon as you leave the country. So sure, you could apply and then leave the country, and then once it gets issued, then come back in and start working. But you won't have maintained or implied status, and so that might significantly impact you and your employer if you're already in the country right now. So be really, really careful.
Yeah. And anytime I just keep ringing that bell, you guys, because really these questions really justify a consultation where we can sort through everything. And also Ravindra asks a great question here. He says, can folks whose postgrad expired in the eligible timeframe but who have transitioned to a closed work permit apply for this extension?
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, there's nothing that says you can't at this point, but we don't have any of the actual specifics from the immigration minister on how this program will work in practice. So I can't see why not if you have done that properly in the past, but I guess it remains to be seen.
Yeah. And I ring this again, Ravindra, because you want to seriously consider why you would want to move from an employer specific with the extra points and maybe added benefits for the PR side back to a work permit that maybe gives you more flexibility, but doesn't necessarily make you possibly as competitive for a PNP or express entry or some other pathway. Because let's face it, if you're here working, you're seeking a pathway to PR. And that's the single most important factor to look at, something we can
And
cover in here.
And Mark, I think I really do need to write another blog article on what constitutes arranged employment and whether you can qualify for actual points under your express entry profile if you have an offer of employment, because I can't tell you how many people think, great, I've got an offer of employment, and they go in and they change their express entry profile when they don't actually have what constitutes an offer of employment under arranged employment.
All right, we've got a super chat here from JJ, which I'll answer. It doesn't relate to what we're talking about here today, but I'll just jump in quick. He says, started full-time position in September 20th of 2021. And essentially, he's already accumulated the 1,560 hours and now wants to know if he can apply right now. And the short answer is no, you have to wait for the full 12 months. You have to wait till September 20th or 19th of 2022. And then I would submit my profile at that stage. Lots of people accumulate it faster because often full-time is 40 hours, right? Not 30. So yeah, JJ, I would hold off and submit it at that time. Yes. Okay. All right. Tara says, applied to restore, 90 days expired yesterday. She suggests withdrawing the previous application and applying for the postgrad restoration through the new policy.
I never like to pull out a
I know.
restoration application that was filed
Yeah.
in time. So, you know what? I don't know, Tara. I would have to talk to you more about where
Yeah.
you are, what's going on in your life to understand what your best options would be.
All right. Okay. Kabashi says, thanks, Mark and Alicia. You both rock. You're very welcome. We're just about to the end here. Manny says, received NOI, submitted my ANP application before my birth date, and now my CRS reduced by 5 points. Should I inform to Alberta Immigration, or I need to update this in my application? There's nothing that you update with your birth date, and really there isn't too much that you can do in terms of the AINP. They're going to love you either way, probably. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that. It's also a little bit outside of the parameters here.
It is outside. Take a look. You know, it's different than if you are locked in and you've already submitted your whole EAPR. So there is public policy guidelines in terms of that 11.2 completeness check on what happens when you have your actual application for EAPR submitted and your birthday goes down. But this doesn't sound like you actually have an invitation to apply yet federally. It looks like it's just that notification of interest under AINP, which isn't the whole invitation to apply under the Federal Express Entry Program yet.
Yes. Okay. Jurgon says, hello, Mark and Alicia. Do I need to provide a police clearance certificate in applying for the Bridging Open Work Permit? Thanks a lot. I think maybe we'll hold off on this one as we get into the process. As far as Bridging Open Work Permit, I'm not sure if you mean the actual Bridging Open Work Permit from within Canada. And typically that's not something that's required when you're going through that process. Or if you're referring to this new 18-month post-grad public policy work permit, but we'll leave that one there. Okay, Patel says, my wife's post-grad has expired. I live in India. Can she add me in the extension while extending her post-grad work permit? And Alicia, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. We can look back at what we traditionally have done. And, I think the short answer is no, including a dependent in the context of an in-Canada extension application. But do you have any other thoughts?
I don't think they've said anything about spouses under this. So the normal rules for when a spouse can apply based on the principal applicant status should hopefully be the same.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it. We have had a really good, I went through all the questions. We hit everybody, which is awesome. Remember, you guys, I'll flip back over here. If you have questions or you're looking just for a little bit of extra assistance, we've got a lot of options for you. The postgrad 18-month extension course, I'm going to be starting the recordings for this for option number 1 here tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. after my express entry live from 4 to 5. And that's going to be a little rough and tumble, but I will be teaching exactly how I will within the context of the course. The recordings from here will form up the full course. This will all be available on demand. This is like you're just showing in to audit a university class. So that's why I'm only charging $25 for that, just to watch me create this one. And then remember, within the firm, we are always available to help. All you have to do is click to speak to a lawyer at the top here, and then we can even help you with your whole filing of your application. So as much or as little assistance as you need, we are here for you. All right. Any last comments, Alicia? Anything else that you'd like to share?
I'm just, hoping and thinking that there will be another draw tomorrow. So keep things updated in your express entry profile if you're hoping to get an invitation to apply. It seems like the next draw will be tomorrow, so that's one thing to keep an eye on. And I'm just very glad that immigration has finally announced the details of this program. There isn't a different portal, but we will work through all the nitty-gritty details to make sure that people do apply properly through the existing system.
Absolutely. And the last little piece here, if you're on YouTube or watching whatever channel, know that there's an upcoming live stream once again covering a more detailed analysis of the program at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time right here in the same place. And so you can click to get notified. And once we go live, you will be able to connect right in. So there we go. All right. Thanks, Alicia. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mark.